Oh, howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. Today I want to talk about a subject I haven't touched on yet, which is leveling alts on trade leagues. This has been somewhat inspired by a series of Reddit posts where people have shown off their ridiculous equipable at level 1 gloves, and I'm going to be discussing those, but as well as every inventory slot, what you might want to consider. So this is aimed at people that have got sort of 5 to 12 exalts at least saved aside, and you've got a goofy build in mind, but you think it's going to be absolutely terrible until you reach high level. Now, one of the things that's important for this is that a lot of the crafting that will be done in this is very item level sensitive, and I want to discuss that. The first thing you need to know about is the Book of Regression. This is something you can earn by selling an Orb of Scouring and a Scroll of Wisdom to a vendor, and what it does, you need to have passive skill points available, but it will reduce your character level. 4, 3, 2, 1.
I will disappoint him.
And that allows you to do a number of things. Firstly, it allows you to be inside Line Eye's Watch on a character that is not level 1. And you'll see that's just preventing me from using this silly maul that I've got. It also allows you to mess around a little bit with some of the vendors. So you'll notice here that the item levels, you can get item level 2 gear again from this vendor, which I wouldn't have been able to get when my character was level 4. However, to get item level 1 equipment, which we are going to want for a specific reason, you need to be in the Twilight Strand. This character has never passed beyond the Twilight Strand. I just did Hillock about 5 times on them, got to level 4, and now of course I'm back to level 1. And that's all I wanted to do on that, was to farm a couple of gloves. So I'll just quickly bring those up. All these are is just white gloves that are... Oh, that one's item level 1. That one's item level 3. That must have dropped from Hillock. That's no use to me. But this one here is item level 1. That's what we wanted. So anyways, that was the only reason that this character exists. It was to farm those gloves. I got one of them in 5 runs of Hillock, so your mileage may vary. They're not particularly common. In any case, what we want to talk about here is the equipment that you're going to be using while you're leveling a character. There's a few universal points first. Firstly, you can upgrade benchcrafts as you go, and many items will take you all the way. If you start with a rare item that you craft on gloves at low level, you can stick the lowest tier benchcraft on it when it becomes available, and then as you progress through your adventures, you can then stick a higher level lifecraft on it, and the damage mods on it will carry you all the way. Secondly, flasks. Life flasks, and if you need them, mana flasks, levels 30, 42 and 60 are the big levels for them. And you also want to pick up 2 good Quicksilver of Adrenaline flasks. I recommend either Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline or Experimenter's Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline, but you can experiment with Perpetuals and all sorts of other things. Worthwhile even going to the extent of getting them 26 qualityed if you can. And minimum levels matter here. Adrenaline can't be rolled under 5. Experimenters and Alchemists can't be rolled on Quicksilver Flasks that are item level 20 or below. A third universal point is that many suggestions I make in this video are anti-synergistic with Brutality support. You might want to use that support gem at endgame, but don't use it while you're leveling up. And lastly, don't spend a fortune on twink gear, unless you're doing it just for the lols. The reason for this is that twink gear is an investment in power leveling your next character. An investment needs to be able to pay off, otherwise it's not worth making. So spending 24 Exalted Orbs to create an absolutely perfect item level 1 set of gloves that will be the best thing ever, that will be the best thing imaginable at level 1. This can be a lot of fun, but it's not a productive investment when you could get almost the same amount of speed in progression for a set of gloves that costs only 24 chaos to craft. So keep that in mind. Most of the suggestions I make can be improved by the use of hollow fossils. They can be improved by the use of all sorts of other expensive consumables, like exalting out the last mods just to put any old crap mods on a set of equipment. They can be improved by 2 implicit corrupting them and making as many as necessary to hit a 2 implicit corruption. But all of these are just really over the top a lot of the time. Okay, so first up, let's talk gloves. The reason that I'm making this video was originally inspired by a number of ridiculous sets of gloves that were posted onto the Path of Exile subreddit. Now what I'm picking up here is a set of quite solid, gloves that have got quite a bit of potential and some fossils. And what we're going to do with these is demonstrate some of the fossil exclusive mods that exist. So what we have here is an aberrant fossil and a frigid fossil. You don't need to use aberrant, you can use metallic. I just happen to own aberrants and I don't own metallics. But what you're looking to do is get, there are 4 different mods that you're interested in here. There is the frigid fossil mod on gloves, which adds a flat amount of cold damage to all of your attacks and spells. There is a fire version of that as well, and you can't get both of them on the same item, because if you have a frigid fossil and a scorched fossil in the same item, more cold modifiers cancels the more fire the no fire modifiers cancels the more fire modifiers. The you can't roll fire trumps the you get more fire mods. And so consequentially, you won't normally get both cold and fire damage on the same item. I think the best way to demonstrate these is just to fire one off. So this is my item level 1 set of iron gauntlets, and just because it will look really bad if I don't do this, I'm going to get it qualityed first. In terms of sockets, they come later. So this has more cold modifiers, more chaos modifiers, no fire, and no lightning. And we hit everything we wanted. You'll see here, adds 24 to 35 cold damage, which is almost perfectly divined, and adds 16 to 27 chaos damage. Those are the 2 rolls that I was looking for. You're not guaranteed to get them, but there's a pretty good chance of doing so. Now, the reason that I've gone for cold is because when you hit level 16, you will pick up Herald of Ice, because Herald of Ice is extremely good while you're leveling, and this will help you inflict freezes in order to trigger off the powerful Herald of Ice explosions that can then kill all sorts of enemies around you. Additionally, this has, unfortunately, this has hail on it, and it doesn't have doesn't have that much in the way of crafting bench options. Many of the crafting options will increase the minimum level of the item. So just to demonstrate that, I'm going to stick lightning resistance on it. Notice it has a minimum level of 1, which is not listed. Now it's minimum level 12, and that will be the same level it's listed here. I'm going to remove that because I really don't want it. But just first, that's how you get 4 sockets on the item. Remove crafted mods. So that is the basic set of gloves that you're looking for. The reason that these are so good is that flat damage is just overpowered at low level. This applies to all hits, so that is spells that are not damage over time, and to attacks that you make, so not to minions, not to traps, and not to mines. And the amount of damage is scaled so high that it remains good well up into the upper middle levels. So Act 8, even Act 10, it's not bad. Cold generally pairs best with lightning. As I said, I didn't have any metallic fossils when I started making this video, and trading in this game can be a pain, so I didn't go through it. But Herald of Thunder is a reasonably useful herald. It's not nearly as good as Herald of Ice is, but it does have its uses, and so inflicting shocks on enemies is quite useful. However, this just matters a lot less than getting the freezes, so that you can then inflict that freeze and then get a Herald of Ice proliferation chain going from it. Now, you actively want item level 1 items, and I want to showcase why. So if I just quickly swap out of the game client, I'm going to transition across into the website POEDB. This is a list of data mined information. So there's got a whole lot of stuff that's been taken from the game files. I'm going to assume that you're using strength gloves, but it doesn't actually matter. The mods are essentially the same. There's a couple of unimportant ones that change, but for the ones that matter, they're there. Now, if you set a number in here, you can then specify the item level of the gloves that you're using. So by default it's 86, but let's just stick in a 2, and it will then preclude everything that can't roll on item level 2 and lower. There are 2 mods that we actively don't want. Heated adds 1 to 2 fire damage to attacks, and Frosted adds 1 to 2 cold damage to attacks. The reason we want these, that we don't want these, is because I believe that they lock out the equivalent Delve mod. And so as a result, you can either get Frosted, or you can get the Delve of the Underground Frigid Fossil modifier. I absolutely want this 25. You can see there that that's an average of, so it's 46 to 60. That is an average of 53. Sorry, not an average of 53, an average of 26.5 cold damage that you're inflicting on enemies, as opposed to an average of 1.5. 25 more damage. You definitely want to get this roll instead of this roll. And the way that you can lock them out completely is by putting in item level 1 item, and then the only undesirable prefix that you can roll is adds fire damage to attacks, because then that would lock out the Delve fire damage. However, you're not going to be able to roll that because you're going to be using added cold damage from the Frigid Fossil. So you're very likely to hit exactly what you want with this setup. So for that reason, we're going to be using the very low item level gloves, which are a pain in the ass to farm. As I said, it took me 5 full clears of the Twilight Strand in order to get the set that I used in the crafting video there. But I got them on my first try, but then I didn't get a second one for 4 more. In any case, it's a nuisance, but it's worth doing. You only need to do it once. You can then 4-socket it, as I showed off with the crafting bench, and then you can 4-link it either manually or via the crafting bench. Now, in terms of other options for fossils, Prismatic amps up the chance to hit flat damage, but also adds a steaming turd into the drop pool in the form of reduced ailment duration. Combined with a high purchase price, I don't feel it's worth using Prismatic fossils. However, by all means, feel free to experiment with them. Speed mods are all strong. There is unconditional attack speed in the regular mod pool. There is the serrated 18% increased attack speed for socketed gems, and I might just bring up the list again at this point and demonstrate that. So if we have a look through here, the mods in question, and I will just find them here. Socketed gems have 18% increased attack speed, which is tagged as being the serrated fossil. There is also socketed skills have 18% increased cast speed from etheric fossils, and there is increased 5 to 10% increased attack and cast speed if you have hit an enemy recently. All of these are very potent mods, and for that reason it can be worth considering using shuddering fossils, etheric fossils, and serrated fossils. If you're watching this video during the Legion League, however, endgame crafting demand for serrated fossils is through the roof, and as a result, although these are common fossils, they're 1/5 of an exalted orb each, and so I feel that they're too expensive for frivolous use here. By all means, if you're wanting to just craft the best thing possible, then go ahead and use them. We also have, that's just a cost-benefit analysis you'll have to make yourself. Now, Lucent also has some awesome mods available to it. Lucent is the mana one, and it gives you 2 to 4 mana gain for each enemy hit by your attacks. Mana gain on hit is one of those things that sounds really trivial, but that actually plays really, really well. Unfortunately, it clashes with all of the speed mods, both the speed mods from etheric and serrated fossils, as well as shuddering, and also the natural speed mod in the standard drop pool, which is increased attack speed of skill, 5 to 7% IAS. And so for that reason, I feel that the opportunity cost of using Lucent fossils is too high, and a mana flask is better. Pristine fossils are okay, but not amazing, and I feel you can get enough life on your coral rings to not need the pristine fossils. But by all means, if you want to use them, go ahead. There are physical options instead of elementals. So far I've talked about how you can get added fire damage, added cold, added lightning, and also added chaos with the aberrant fossil. The physical ones are considerably lower. You'll see here that you're only getting an average of 8.5 physical damage, which is 1/3 the amount that you would get if you were of cold damage by using a jagged fossil. You can also get increased physical damage against bleeding and poisoned enemies, so conditional physical damage rolls with corroded fossils. I, however, feel that these simply are not high enough numbers to merit, and what my suggestion to you is, even if your endgame build is going to use brutality support, level up using the elemental gems instead. Lastly, if you want to really ratchet up the silliness on your gems, on your gloves, you do have the option of going for a corruption or even a 2 implicit corruption. Your goal here is to get speed mod that synergizes. So if you're making caster gloves, your dream is to get a set of gloves that have got 18% socketed gem cast speed, and also have 8 to 10% increased cast speed as a Val implicit corruption mod. Needless to say, this is pretty rare, although there's only 5 options on item level 1 gloves when you corrupt them, so it's not a terrible chance, but this is one of those things to do if you've really just got fuck you money.